Hello and welcome. Hope you're doing alright. I am doing good. I'm a bit more with it now. Got a couple of days to get back up to, normal life, reality as it were. So yeah, we'll just go around and have a look at how the garden's fared. I've done a couple of little plodding bits over the last couple of days where I was just gearing up for life. But we'll go around and have a look how everything's fared. And yeah, go from there. So in answer to the question I put up about what did the worst when I was gone, everyone was wrong, and very wrong at that. The most popular answer was the tree ferns. They actually did the best. It was a bit of a naughty question on my part, because you may remember the video before I went away when I said I didn't want anyone coming around and using the irrigation in case they left it on, because it doesn't make much of a noise, so you can't hear it. It's easy to leave it on. Basically, the Friday morning when we were getting up at 3 o'clock to leave for the airport and getting ready, I popped down, put the kettle on, and I thought, I'll just give the tree ferns one last spray with the irrigation, the high pressure one, so all the the big misting spray, as it were, the sprinkler. And yeah, I forgot to turn it back off, and it wasn't until the end of the day after when someone had come round and text me saying, is this supposed to be left on? So they got a good water in. The one thing that suffered the most wasn't from a lack of water, excuse the fence post. It was the the slugs and snails, and it was the Schefflera rhododendrofolia. As you can see there, the new growth that it did have was not there when I got back. You can see one of them's just sort of mainly quarter survived there. So I thought enough is enough, dug it up, and yeah, put him in a pot so that just see how he does there and hope for the best with it, really. So yeah, we may as well start here. One of the plodding things I've done is split up some of the banana pups, so you'll see them dotted around. I took out the Lepidopoda because it wasn't liking it there where that banana is at the front. Just pop that in there. As you can see, the Aphenis is doing really well. That should be quite good in some ways because it's going to grow up far enough to cover the pot. Also, it's a fern that seems to really like full sun, so it's always good to find them. Bit of a downside is it might crowd out the cyathea, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Here, the Erythrosaura on the right, you can see it's still got a nice little pop to it. I need to just tidy up some of the old ferns, as you can, the fronds there that you can see that are just starting to go off colour. The Hypulpis punctata, that's this thing here. He's doing really well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I've got no idea what it's going to look like because I forgot, because I got it really randomly and it's not one you see very often. So we'll see how that does. Again, I need a fern to fill that where that Musa Basju is. I also need a fern to fill where this Ethereum ocanum is, which is the dead thing there right towards us. I need another plant to fill that. The Nephrolepis cordifolia is doing quite well. All these old fronds, I'll chop them off. You can see it's sending up a flush of new ones. This one was an old one when I got it, but it's still growing now. I mean, that thing is about 60 centimeters long. It doesn't look very long, but if I put my arm right down in there, you can see that it's coming up probably about 4 inches off my shoulder, so that's got to be a good 60 centimeters. So those two there, which are either side of the bench in the same sort of place, when they bush out, if you think how big that frond is, in a few years time, hopefully both of those will have 60 centimeter fronds on them, and it will be overhanging the walls and whatever render I'm going to do on the one on the right. So that should look quite nice and frame the bench quite well. I moved the holly fern, which I was experimenting with. I've got one in full shade, as I would say, over the other side. That's doing quite well. This one really wasn't. It dried out, so I've actually moved it over to the middle bed in a sort of part shade type situation, but we'll get that when we get to it. But otherwise doing all right. The Larissa Hildebrandiana, you can see the stem that's coming out to the left towards the fence post. You can see it has kicked out a couple of new leaves, so that looks like it's going there. They're lime green. And then the back two, they're not really doing a lot, but I think when I messed around with some climbers last year, they never did anything, and then as soon as they found something that they could climb, they suddenly went for it, if you know what I mean, once they sort of got their footing in that respect. So I'm hoping now that I've moved these bamboo guides back, and you can see the one at the back is resting on the trellis, this one is almost resting on the trellis, so I'm hoping if they can just go and just get up onto it and get going, it might start going some, but it doesn't look like it's dead, which is good enough for me. These two drop turrets, the Atrata on the left and the Pindari, Aphenis Pindari on the right. Yep, they're still doing it good. That's full sun. Bananas are kicking out some nice leaves. This last one that's just come out, I don't know, probably 2.5 meters, but yeah, really starting to bush out. And this is the thing with the bananas, they're just so lush, aren't they? Like the you know, not lush as in girt lush as in the way it grows is quite vibrant. So yeah, they're starting to come into their own now, so that's good. Lost the height on the one on the left because of the winter, but the one on the right survived, so yeah, that's good. Other than that, over on this side we've got the Canna iridifolia e Hemini, doubled in size since the last time I did a vid, starting to outpace the bugs that are eating the leaves, so that's good. Up here we've got the Ariostega Privipinata. I mean, this thing, it's really exposed up here. It's obviously really well drained because that planter is half filled with gravel, then it's a very gravelly mix up to the sort of second block, and then that last block at the top is you know, sort of decent soil, but obviously not decent enough because you can see, sorry, that's me tripping on bamboo, it's getting overtaken by whatever this stuff is. I mean, I take it as clover, but yeah, that's a bit of an issue. But I'm going to get another one of those ferns and put it just to the left of the planter there, on the left hand side, so it fills it out, because I know it'll do well up there. But I'm just pondering as to whether when I do that, whether it's easier just to keep pulling it out as and when I walk past it, just with thumb and finger, just get as much off, or whether I dig that out, take out all the good soil of it, really go particular on getting all that clover off and then putting it back in. But the thing is, I could do that, one tiniest bit of root survives, and then next year this time I'm back where I am now. So yeah, something to think about. But yeah, one on the list is to get another Privipinata. It looks very nice. It's got very dark, I'm a real fan of dark stipe and rachises, if you want to say the technical term for the stem, and then lime green you know, pinnulae leaves or fronds, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, it looks very nice, that one. So yeah, another banana pup there, that's where they were before. The Saxifraga solanifera is dying off, but it did look quite nice, but it's a bit too aggressive for me. It was only one I got free in a pot of another fern that had obviously fallen in. These bananas are going some, they lost their height, but it's okay. Another fern that likes full sun is this thing. It's kind of got a same kind of almost like stinging nettle quality to it. I think it's the colour, because it's green, but there must be like grey hairs on it or something, because there's a slight glimmer of grey about it. So yeah, but that's like full sun, as you can see. It likes it. The Atrata on the left is doing okay. Another banana pup here, the Munta, or the Polysticum muntium, western sword fern, starting to go some. I'll chop these old fronds off, hopefully I'll like it there. The Hedechium greenii, yeah, doing well, coming up. It's got a lovely maroon to the underside of it, which looks good in the evening sun. The evening sun comes from our left. My seat is that one over there, so yeah, it's almost like someone thought about putting that there for that particular reason. And then yeah, over to the rear bed, the Lophosauria there though, in the furthest towards us on the right. It's doing all right, it's not dying, that's all we can ask for. The Tetrapanax, yeah, starting to go some real good. This leaf's pretty big. You can see my hands are a pretty decent size for a bloke, so yeah, pretty good. Obviously I think the lack of water affected this leaf that's just come out here, but there's one hot on his heel, so I'm not too worried. The deciduous things, I think the Matichuas and the royal ferns really need it wet. They can take full sun, but they need it like almost bog like conditions. So if you've got something like a gunnera or something like that, I think these would do really well next to them, as would the one that actually is a bit more, you know, drought tolerant, if you want to say that, or doesn't need it as wet, is this Ethereum Felix Femina. That's a good one. Out of the deciduous ferns, I think that's the one I'm going to keep. The rest of them I'll get rid of. You can see I've moved the Inseti over here. The reason for that was because when the washing lines up and you've got washing on it, when it was down there on the right, you couldn't get around it, you couldn't walk around it, so I've moved out to the back. I'll probably move that somewhere else, but just for now he's okay there. So yeah, other than that, we may as well just carry on walking around, see if we've got any more casualties. Oh yeah, the Schefflera Taiwaniana didn't like the lack of water either. You can see those like leaves that are curled up. They've got the one dead center and then the one sort of to the back on the left. All these top lot of flush were like that. You can see some of them have still got the remnants of it, but I've given it a nice steady water now. It seems to be coming back. I'll do that for another couple of days if it doesn't rain, and then after that, if they're still closed up, I will chop them off. Otherwise, Setiferum still doing really well. It looks good. Like I said, this is great. I've said it before, but it's kind of like a 7 out of 10 every day of the year, and then you've got that 8, 9 out of 10 when it, you know, sort of the last month, where it just looks really great. But yeah, really great fern, nice and big if you've got a big shady area to fill, because it loves full shade, doesn't really like any sun in my opinion, or what's worked for me. Otherwise in here, the other one that didn't do too well, similar to the Schefflera, was the Pilostagia verbenoides there at the back, the climber. He was sort of gone on yellow and all the leaves had curled up a little bit, but yeah, I gave him a water and he's recovered a lot quicker than the Schefflera did. Otherwise, new plant alert. I took some cuttings off our cheese plant inside about 2 months ago, just left them in bottles of water. So I've got one of them here. This one's actually in the ground on top of the fig tree roots, and you can see I've tied it into the fig tree, and then we'll wait, see if that survives, and then we'll tidy up and hopefully that will climb up the fig tree and survive, so that'd be quite good. Another new fern alert. This is just the normal Boston fern, just from B&Q. I just saw it earlier. £7, and the hanger basket as well on top of that. But yeah, this is a nice cool place. I had the hanger up here from when I was experimenting with the nidus. It fills that sort of mid-fence void for now, so we'll see how it does. The one I've got inside, which is doing really well now, did take a while to get going. It took 3 or 4 months to actually get going, so this one might not even get ready this summer, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Fancy is doing well. It dropped its leaves underneath the old ones. As you can see, they're all piled up there, so I've got like a proper stalk on that now, and it's starting to overhang, you know, give that canopy effect, even if it is only 2-3 foot high. So yeah, happy with that. The Dixonia, this one, like I said, I left the irrigation on, so they were well watered, so they've done really well. I kept the anchors on, even though I've chopped the old brown fronds off. That's just to keep the crown open. You can see the silver fern there's doing all right, even though I dropped that rock on top of it. The small Dixonia is starting to come back. I thought this as a plant, so the ones you can get for a tenner, like the real small ones, it really vibrant, really good, vigorous grower. And as actually, because people always think of these when you say Dixonia antarctica, if they didn't exist and this was just a fern like any of the other ferns, if you like, it would be right up there. It would be right up there. So yeah, otherwise over here, Cyathea is doing well. It's kicked out the leaf, the frond we've been waiting for, which is the one that comes across over the playground. So that thing there is, if I was to hold it up virtually straight, that's my chin height. My chin is 1.5 meters, so that's pretty good, and hopefully they only get better than that. This one did come up before it, but I think the crozier had already formed before I put it in the ground, and it had started to come up when I was taking it out the house and hardening it off. So the fact that I sort of shocked it by putting it in the ground is probably why that's happened, hopefully anyway, but I guess we'll find out when the next few fronds come out. There's one already pointing away from us as we're looking at it at the bottom. Yeah, other than that, most things seem to be okay. Even these ones that were in these bags. I did have a little thought about these actually. I might put, because when you water these, they water and then it drips off the bottom of them. I was going to line them all up, but it didn't look right, which is why they're all like opposites, if you see what I mean. But what I was thinking is that if I put like some form of tray underneath that to catch all the drips, then it will have a water, and then after it's have a water, there's a tray of water underneath it, so the humidity, if it's hot, will keep the plant like humid. So yeah, I might get into that, because just remember, it looks horrific now, but when that ivy at the bottom of it gets going and starts climbing up it, that's going to be a thick plant growing around it to make it look like a sort of dead tree, if you like, with just these ferns coming out. So yeah, you won't see any of the workings of it, hopefully, in the end. Fat Cedar is doing well. This thing was absolutely getting destroyed by aphids when I left, but I almost filmed it. But last thing before I went away, the night before we went, I was sat there and I was looking at it thinking, should I just sort of chop, you know, the whole top 6 inches off each of the grow points and just chuck them over the fence just to get rid of them. But then I saw a hoverfly flying around, watched it for a bit, and yeah, it was interested. Ants were protecting the plant, and there was a bit of cat and mouse game going on where the hoverfly would land on a leaf that had the aphids on it, quickly lay an egg, and then the ant would come and chase it off, and then it would fly around the back of the leaf, lay one there, the ant would run around there, it would fly off, run around the top, lay another one there, and it would get about 10 eggs on each one. I take it the ants don't go after the eggs because it must disguise it with a pheromone, I guess. I think that's how ants work, is by pheromones. So yeah, there you go. Other than that, the only other thing of note really is this Tracheospurdum jasminoides. I was under the impression before I left that it was starting to grow, but it's not actually growing as such, as far as I'm aware. It's just put out flower stalks. It's not like gained any length or width, if you know what I mean. So yeah, but it looks quite nice for the fact it's only been in there a couple of months. I wasn't expecting any flowers for a couple of years, to be honest with you, so it's a nice little bonus, but I've not bought that for the flowers particularly. It's more just because it's a nice evergreen thing that would be nice and thick to stop the wind coming off the top of the garage. Finally, we've got these two. Here's the other cut of the Monstera I did. It actually went really well. You can see it's doing all right, so I've put that there because that's full shade, and that's a reserve one, so you know, if temperatures get crazy, I can pull that one back in and I wouldn't have lost it, as opposed to the other one, which might die if it gets 8 degrees. Then other than that, the Nidus. Yeah, so as a Brucey bonus, I have bought a couple, along with the Boston Fern, a couple of cypress trees. Now these, I went into B&Q to get some work stuff, and I thought I'd just do what I always do, which is just go and have a look and see what they got going on there, just because you never know. And these things were half price. They're a little bit rough. I can see why they're half price. They're not as good as the other ones were, but I thought this is quite a good little experiment for me, because these were slightly rough. So I've just literally repotted them before this video, and I'm just interested to see how easy they are to revive, like, well, if you see what I mean. So if these two die now, I'm gonna have to seriously consider looking into why conifers die and all that. If they do well, then I know I can possibly chance that again at another date if I have to. With regards to where I'm going to put them, I might put one where that holly fern was, to the right of the fence post over there with the big banana, sort of almost to the left of the ladder bit by the bench, you can see. That'd be a nice bit of vertical height, as I call it, which doesn't sound right, but it does make sense because it's not very wide, it's very thin. So I'll just put that in the pot over there, and the wall will hide half the pot. Maybe move the Insetti at the back there over to the pot that we can't see, which is to the right of the Tetrapanax with the small banana in it. Move the Insetti over there, because then that gives it a bit of room. It's not going to cover anything because all the ferns are lower than it behind. And put that cypress, put the other cypress in there to the where the Insetti is. Or my third thought is that I can put it to the, as we're looking at it, between the fence post here and the Fat Cedera, but sort of at the back, if you see what I mean. So almost where that bamboo is, going straight up, if you see what I mean, just to give me a bit of height over there. And yeah, the conifer situation is that I am starting to paint a picture. I know where roughly they're going to go. The only trouble is with the pines, the small pines, I only want some dwarf pines to go. Basically, if we're looking at this shot here, ignore the clothesline, ignore that bit where there's no fence at the back, because that's going to be a big Clematis amandii, and then from the fence post behind the bar stool, fence high, all the way around to where the concrete blocks are on the right over by the planter, that is all going to be one big rock jungle waterfall. So the idea is that as you step out the house, that sort of view is all enclosed. You can't see a lot of it, you just get a glimmer of maybe a rock and a bit of water. So the bananas, like the one on the right, when they're just a touch bigger than that, they will cover all the fence and all of that, and probably come down to, you know, roughly where you can see the banana leaves now. That's sort of just the top of the fence, top foot of the fence, say, as we're looking at it. And then the two ferns, the two atratas at the bottom, they will hopefully double in size from what they are now, so they'll enclose the bottom of it. And then I need something at kind of that mid-level between them to come across and sort of make it difficult to see what's through there. So 2 pines I'm thinking for there. But yeah, there's so many different varieties, it's difficult to gauge, so I need to do a bit more research, as I keep saying. But the idea is that it's all enclosed. You sort of walk out of the house, get a glimmer of something out there in the back, and you're like, ooh, what's that? And you sort of almost walk out and have to sort of stick your head under, and then you come out to a big rock waterfall. So yeah, it's all ideas there, but weather's picked up, as you can see. That is really hot now. We did have a bit of rain earlier, my water butt's full, so I'm pretty happy. I'm going to crack on and work on with my short, medium and long term stuff, and more specifically what order to do it all in. But yeah, there you go, that's just how it's all going. Hope you're having a good day. Thanks for watching, see you next time.